The second film from Ruben Galindo Jr. that Vinegar Syndrome has released is Cemetery of Terror, another one of these fantastic slipcovers. And I think I'm going to preface this one by saying, between this and Grave Robbers, I really like Grave Robbers a lot more. But understandably, this I think was his debut movie. Now, if you want to support this channel, you can go over to patreon.com. There is a link in the description box below, and you can do it for $1. Now, this movie has a few surprises. Like I said, it's a first movie and it feels a little bit scattershot in the way it tackles all of its kind of storytelling, but I like the way that it's a little bit different in that. You see, this one has a group of teenage kids, the kind of typical kids that you see in lots of horror movies, and for some reason their girlfriends or the women that they're attracted to are going to a rock concert. So they decide to invite them to a jet-setting party full of stars, limos, and all kinds of wealth on show. Unfortunately, these guys are just downright lying and take these girls to a cemetery, to an abandoned house. Ultimately, the women aren't really happy about this until one of the guys discovers a book of the dead, and starts to read about all these different spells they can do. And because they're bored, they're there's not really much else to do, they just decide to, you know, the usual thing, go and steal a body from the morgue and practice a black magic ritual. Unfortunately, the body they steal happens to be that of a serial killer, and that jumps to the other kind of side plot in this one, where we have a psychiatrist who is adamant that this is a force of evil that has died and wants to cremate the body, and he's working with a police chief to try and make sure that happens. Unfortunately, like I said, the body's been stolen. And for an hour of the movie, we focus on these characters until the body reanimates and starts to come back to life looking for blood, and it takes a little while in getting there, just a little bit too long, and the pacing feels dragged ever so much. Once we get to the action, it is brutal and quick. All these kids are taken out within a 20-minute spell, with still a good half hour of the movie to go. And it had me scratching my head, because you've just taken out the characters that we've been watching, and we get thrown in some side characters that we were introduced to earlier on. This group of prepubescent teens, all around about the 10 to 13 mark, have turned up at this cemetery for some unknown reason and are now the people that are going to be tortured and put under extreme terror. And this is a great move, because you've already seen all these kids that we kind of starting to like be utterly decimated due to this reanimated corpse. You have the weight of them being young kids, your innocents, who haven't quite done anything wrong and who we genuinely like and you instantly feel for, put under extreme terror. You know this bad person, this antagonist, will kill without remorse, and these kids are now within the firing line, and that adds a great weight to the movie. There is lots of zombies rising from the grave in this one and chasing after people, and that becomes pretty fun later on as well, when it gets to the kind of tropey aspects of the movie, where it's people coming out of corpses, people chasing after others and monsters and things like that. It comes into its own. It really does become an enjoyable piece of entertainment. It just takes that little too long to get there, but I really did like that twist from the characters, from one group of teenagers to a group of prepubescent teenagers who we really feel for. Cemetery of Terror had a lot going for it and a lot going against it. It had this really great, fantastic special effects, this strange notion of storytelling that really did keep me on my toes, but it takes a while in getting there. Some of the early characters are a little bit aggressive. Some of their machinations aren't quite put forward in the way you would expect and just seem haphazard by choice. But it's a movie that wins you over. It's a movie with great effects and a good sense of kinetic energy behind you that makes it watchable. I still think Grave Robbers is the better movie, but I'm quite impressed by this debut entry. Cemetery of Terror is one that I would definitely recommend, but if it's between this and Grave Robbers, you know where I land. I'd love to know your thoughts on this movie. Let me know in the comment box below. I'll see you next time on Man v Film.